Poor Admiral Whiskers. That was like, I like this episode. This was like, a day in the life of the Doom Patrol. Sort of, kind of. I mean, this episode was about them getting to the root, or, we got to see just an exploration of each member's problems with their past. And, a lot of these problems usually have to deal with their powers. But, it's not their powers necessarily. It's deeper stuff, deeper traumas or just problems that they've had. But, the part of this episode that really made me laugh was the end when, we found out that the reason that Robotman was having problems was that, it was a rat who had problems with him and wanted revenge, egged on by Mr. Nobody. But I thought that was hilarious, when they would have like the subtitles and the rat was crawling into Cliff's room saying, vengeance or my revenge or the angel of death or whatever. He was talking about Cliff like that. I was like, this is hilarious. But, that was cool. So, a rat crawled into, like, Robotman circuitry and was, I guess, messing with some wires or whatever and drove him crazy. Was part of the reason why he had the psychotic break, or at least why he was, flipping out. I mean, Cliff was already having issues, but he wouldn't have acted, so violently in this episode if it wasn't for that damn rat and Mr. Nobody. So that was funny. That was an unexpected surprise at the end, and that made me giggle a little bit. Or a lot, actually. And just, having the rat say dialogue, like vengeance and whatever that was. I like that. So that was cool. And this is actually similar. They are trying to play up the fact that Cliff, as Robotman, is kind of like a very, two-fisted, prone to violence kind of person. And, Cliff was like that in the comics, but not, so extreme where he was like beating people to death. But this episode did make me think there was a subplot in the old 60s Doom Patrol called like Robotman Unhinged or Unchained or whatever, where he went crazy and had a break. And, it was when he first like became a Robotman, and I guess he was having problems dealing with it. And, he was kind of flipping out. And this episode made me think of that, the Robotman Unhinged, storyline that ran through like 3 or 4 episodes of the old classic Doom Patrol. They were backup stories. There'd be main stories, with the main Doom Patrol, adventure, and then there'd be a backup story about Robotman going crazy. And that's what this reminded me of. And, it was interesting to see that, that's what it made. And I'm wondering if that was the inspiration for them to do this storyline, to have him flip out like that. Or, I don't know, if that storyline wasn't there, they probably would have done it anyway. But I'm wondering if maybe they read that comic and were like, let's adapt it for this. Have Robotman go violently crazy for a little bit. But they've kind of laid story threads about Cliff being prone to violence before. Like, we've seen that mentioned in other episodes. I kind of chalk it up to, he is going through problems, and maybe he just is, that kind of person. But I also think that he's also not used to being, a robot body, He's not used to... He's used to hitting people in his past with flesh, normal fists. Now he's got metal fists, and he has to like be extremely gentle now, right? And I don't think he's mastered, the control of, basically keeping like a living tank from like smashing people's faces in. It'd probably be really easy for him to do that. He has to like train and adapt. That's part of it. But I mean, another part of it is he does, I think, have problems with, maybe violence, brutality and stuff, or rage. That's what they seem to be saying. I think he's just a very emotional person. That's part of it. But, he is kind of emotional in the comics too. And now I think about it, he's one of those I wear my heart on my sleeves kind of person, usually in a lot of his stories, and I think this episode kind of emphasized that, during the therapy session when, people were telling him like to, be quiet and stuff because he couldn't control himself to blurt things out. I think he kind of has that kind of personality, sort of, kind of. He's impulsive and also, very physical. But we got to see like more about the other characters too. Larry and his negative spirit. This is about, him coming to terms with his problems, in the old days with him having to repress or hide his homosexuality and his feelings towards people. And I guess they're trying to say that he's kind of selfish or that he destroys other people's... By him having to protect his secret, that affected the lives of everyone around him and stuff. And I guess he felt like they had to like mold or change their lives to fit him. And it was kind of a worthless, a bum deal for them because they didn't get much out of it. I mean, I think this episode was alluding to a lot of that. And his negative spirit is, I guess, his own kind of like existential or like other, therapist that's always with him, just trying to make him see stuff, which is different. In the comics, the spirit, at least not in most of them, was never trying to make him see anything. They didn't really go into his relationship with the spirit and what the spirit thought. It was just there. So this whole addition of like the spirit trying to make him, the negative spirit trying to make him see stuff, is a newer development for the show. And some of the later comics have gone into, the spirit as an entity and how it relates to Larry, but it was never really like emphasized or shown the way it is in this episode, or in the way the show seems to be doing it, as they seem to explore more of what the dynamic is between the two of them. We see more Rita, of course, and her issues. I don't think the whole Rita Farr, I think this is the first time in the comics. I think Rita Farr was her actual real name, or unless they said that it wasn't, I forget. Maybe her real name is something else. So she's like one of those old classic stars like Marilyn Monroe. Like Marilyn Monroe, her real name was Norma Jean, right? And she made up this like more glamorous name. And I guess they're going for the same sort of thing with Rita Farr. Like, she had to like be glamorous to fit in with, an actress. And actors today still do that, a lot of them, not all of them. And so I think she felt like that's the kind of actress she was. She had to have a stage name, a persona. And she's learning to control her powers a bit better. It seems like they're trying to say that as more when she comes to accept who she really is and not her actress persona, that's when she's honest about who she is as a person, that helps her control her powers better. She has to learn to control and accept herself as she really is, and that's going to help her accept her powers. Once she because I think it's all her problems are related to her psychologically, right? It's all mental, I think, with her. And so, she has to learn to love herself or accept herself, and then she'll be able to be in fully control of like her elastic powers. And, Jane still crazy Jane. They kind of hinted to the fact that she has problems with her daddy. And I think her daddy, in the comics, her daddy's assault. Well, that wasn't she was assaulted by multiple people, but I think originally her father was the person who assaulted her and gave her multiple personalities. And the show, I think, is just staying true to that, because something is supposed to be off with her father, when he was standing over her crib as a baby. He wasn't a very good dad. And I think that's the genesis of her multiple personalities. And then there's Cyborg. I don't know, Cyborg, I feel Cyborg was pretty self-explanatory. They are giving him more issues in this show. I would say that they're delving into Cyborg's issues in live action. The Doom Patrol is the best portrayal, or the deepest portrayal of the Cyborg in live action. Unfortunately, the live action DC movies, well, we only got to see Cyborg in Justice League, and it was a group movie, so they didn't really get a chance to really go into Cyborg's problems as deeply as I think Doom Patrol will, and currently is. I thought it was funny with him when he was doing the whole, what was it, cash, dating profile. And, there were people, his dad was shutting that off for him. And, that is kind of messed up. Like, his dad is basically restricting his personal life or love life, which I think is a horrible thing for him to do to his child. Why not let Victor, I guess maybe he thought it was his way of protecting him, because, as we saw, a lot of girls might not really be into someone who's like half robot or half man, but Vic Stone in the DC universe on the show, he's kind of out as a cyborg anyway. Everybody knows. So, I don't know. It's not like it's this huge secret, right? So, it seems to me that he'll be able to accept that and date and stuff. Although, do people want to date him, or they just want to be like, it's cool to be with the cool superhero? Because that first girl that he was swiping on Cash, she kind of didn't, she was into him as like, oh, can I see your cool robot parts and stuff? It was more like an exploitative kind of thing. But, I'm sure it's possible for him to find someone. He's like, he's still a man just with cyborg parts. There'll be chicks who'll be into him for him. And, I think in real life, someone like him, and living in a world where there's like Superman and all these other fantastic people in it, I think he'd be able to have a relatively normal life if he wanted to have one. But, those are my thoughts in the episode. I mean, this was a nice getting to know the members of the Doom Patrol kind of episode, so to speak. We got to, like, sit down with them and see more of who they are as people and their problems. Although even before this episode, I feel the show had done a good job of showing us who all these people were. But, they have to continue character development. I mean, the writers can't just show us who people are and stop. So that's why they gave us this episode, to be more of an intimate look at these people. And I think it was cool. I really liked it. I mean, I wouldn't want the remainder of the show to be like these sit down episodes, but you do need them every now and then. It can't just be nonstop action, or else the show would have no depth. So I get it. There need to be episodes like this peppered throughout if you really want to get emotionally like into these characters. So, next episode, I'm sure they'll be back to doing adventures and, seeing if they can find a way to defeat Mr. Nobody. Or maybe there'll be some other side villain they'll have to deal with. But, the pace will be quick. The pace will quicken up in next week, I'll bet. Just a hunch. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please like it on YouTube and subscribe to the channel because I appreciate your viewership, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.